I watched through the heavy glass of the quarantine cell as my loyal golden retriever took his very last painful breath, his big brown eyes looking at me with confusion before his chest went completely still. The Krellian overlords didn't just invade our planet with orbital lasers and planetary dreadnoughts. They brought a synthetic, targeted bioweapon designed to do one specific, cruel thing: wipe out every single canine companion on Earth within 48 hours. Their supreme commander stood on a floating platform over our city squares, laughing through his respirator as he announced that by stripping humanity of our most loyal protectors and emotional anchors, they would systematically drain our psychological will to fight back before their ground legions even landed. They thought that leaving millions of families weeping over empty dog beds would break our collective spirit and force a quick, submissive surrender to their iron rule. What those sadistic monsters completely failed to understand was that they hadn't broken our will at all. They had accidentally unchained the most terrifying, unhinged demon in the entire galaxy. The moment the last puppy died on our streets, a dark, freezing wave of pure, unadulterated human rage swept across every continent. And we didn't cry for mercy, we didn't beg for an antidote, and we didn't sign their conditional peace treaties. Instead, every surviving human, from peaceful school teachers to hardcore military veterans, dropped everything and began converting our entire civilian infrastructure into a massive, hidden meat grinder designed for one single purpose: total alien annihilation. For 5 long years, the Krellian patrols orbited our silent, gray world, looking down at our empty streets and thinking we were just a deeply depressed, conquered species waiting to starve, completely oblivious to the industrial nightmare we were meticulously preparing for them right beneath their heavy boots. We knew we couldn't match their advanced energy shields with standard kinetic weapons, so we built massive underground factories that manufactured trillions of microdrones equipped with specialized plasma-cutting tools, designed to bypass ship defenses by mimicking space debris. When their arrogant invasion fleet finally descended into our lower atmosphere to claim their total victory, our automated planetary defense network remained completely silent, letting them cluster their ships closely together in a massive, dense cloud right above our capital cities. I sat inside the central command bunker, my hand trembling on the master ignition switch as I looked at a faded picture of my dog taped to the console, whispering that this was for him, right before I flooded their main communication channels with a single, unencrypted human audio file that played nothing but the deafening, furious barking of a million ghost dogs, unleashing our mechanical swarms into the sky to rip their pristine hulls into shredded, burning scrap metal. The blinding explosions of their orbital fleet turned the night sky into a burning orange canvas, but the real nightmare for the Krellian ground forces was just beginning on the surface below. They had landed 400,000 of their elite, heavily armored shock troops into our major cities, expecting to march through a broken, weeping population, but the moment their communication grid went dead from our drone strike, they realized they were completely cut off in a meat grinder of their own making. I grabbed my high-velocity rifle and led my squad out of the hidden subway tunnels, stepping onto the shattered concrete of the streets where we didn't offer them a standard military engagement or a chance to lay down their weapons. The Krellian soldiers were terrifyingly fast, with insectoid exoskeletons that could absorb standard bullet impacts, but they weren't prepared for a species that was completely fueled by a decade of buried heartbreak and cold-blooded hatred. We transformed every single skyscraper into a vertical sniper nest, every sewer line into an ambush trench, and every alleyway into a trap rigged with heavy industrial explosives that ripped through their alien armor like cheap paper. They tried to hold their ground in the city centers, firing their plasma rifles blindly into the dark corners, but we didn't form lines or fight for flags. We simply hunted them down one by one, moving through the shadows like ghosts and disappearing before their advanced thermal sensors could even lock onto our positions. Across every continent, from the frozen ruins of Moscow to the burning streets of Chicago, ordinary citizens who had lost their loyal companions rose up alongside our military, weaponizing everything from hunting blades to homemade chemical mixtures that melted their alien breathing apparatuses. After 48 hours of non-stop brutal street fighting, the mighty Krellian army had suffered 95% casualties, and their proud commanders were reduced to hiding inside their own crash-drop pods, screaming into dead radio frequencies for an extraction team that was never going to come. I remembers cornering their high-ranking Legion leader inside a ruined library, his multi-eyed face twitching in absolute terror as he raised his trembling claws to beg for mercy under human law. But I just looked at the empty leash hanging from my tactical vest, told him he should have thought about mercy before he poisoned our world, and pulled the trigger without a single shred of hesitation. Our drop pods didn't just land. They slammed directly into the pristine, pearl-white plazas of their capital city like a localized meteor shower, instantly shattering the illusion that their royal citadel was an untouchable sanctuary. The Krellian High Council had deployed their ultimate defensive line, the Imperial Praetorians, an elite legion of genetic monsters standing 8 feet tall, covered in thick crystalline exo-armor and wielding high-frequency plasma halberds that could slice through a tank's hull with a single swing. They stood in perfect arrogant formation outside the massive palace gates, clicking their mandibles in mockery as our heavy blast doors hissed open, fully expecting our ground troops to falter under the terrifying weight of their advanced technology. What those over-engineered bugs didn't realize was that a human soldier fueled by pure, unadulterated grief doesn't care about tactical odds or superior energy shields. We charged straight into their plasma fire without breaking stride, our heavy power armor absorbing the blistering heat while our automatic kinetic shotguns opened up with a deafening rhythmic roar that literally tore their crystalline armor into flying shards of bloody glass. I led my fire team up the Grand Palace steps, moving through the blinding green lasers with a cold, calculated efficiency that completely broke the alien defense rhythm within the first 10 minutes of engagement. They were used to fighting soft, submissive species that begged for mercy when wounded, but when a human soldier got hit, it only made him fight harder, gritting his teeth and using his bare, armor-clad fists to rip their insectoid limbs completely out of their sockets. The Imperial Guards began to panic, breaking their pristine formations and retreating deeper into the narrow corridors of the Citadel as our explosive breaching charges blew their heavy security doors completely off their hinges, filling the royal halls with thick choking smoke and the terrifying sound of human boots advancing like a ticking doomsday clock. By the time we reached the inner sanctum, the floor was littered with the broken weapons of their finest protectors, and the supreme alien counselors were left hyperventilating in absolute shock, realizing too late that by trying to break humanity's heart, they had simply unlocked the gates to their own living hell. As the heavy smoke filled their royal sanctum, the desperate alien counselors realized their physical guards had completely failed, so they slammed their claws onto an emergency red console, attempting to activate a hidden, planetary-wide doomsday virus that would wipe out all oxygen-breathing life inside our entire star system as a final, suicidal act of spite. Their primary biolaboratory, hidden miles beneath the planet's tectonic crust, began spinning up its massive atmospheric dispersal spires, and their head scientist laughed hysterically through the intercom, screaming that if the Krellian Empire was going to die today, they would ensure humanity burned in the grave right alongside them. What their Supreme Council completely underestimated was that while our ground troops were breaching their palace gates, our elite cyber warfare divisions had already infiltrated their central planetary mainframe through the communication relays we captured in deep space. We didn't waste time trying to crack their advanced firewalls with standard human code. We flooded their quantum network with a highly aggressive, self-replicating digital virus modeled after the very biological pathogen they had used to kill our companion animals on Earth. Every tactical screen, every automated defense grid, and every single biolab terminal across their entire homeworld suddenly froze, flashing a massive, blood-red digital warning display alongside the haunting sound of millions of furious, synthetic canine snarls echoing through their base speakers. I watched the holographic readout inside the command room as their doomsday spires completely lost power, venting their toxic gas harmlessly back into their own underground isolation chambers while their panicked scientists frantically tried to pull the manual override switches. Our cyber soldiers locked down every single orbital escape pod and automated vault door, trapping their elite nobility inside a digital cage of their own making before they could even send a single distress call to the Outer Rim civilizations. The supreme Krellian leader collapsed against his throne as his glowing status monitors turned entirely black, staring up at my squad in absolute, suffocating despair as he finally understood that humanity hadn't just defeated their military fleet, we had completely stripped them of their technology, their weapons, and their very survival. With their digital networks completely crippled and their final doomsday weapon turned to useless metal, the supreme Krellian counselors completely lost the strength to stand, dropping down onto the cold floor of their royal sanctum in absolute, shivering submission. They waited for us to bring out the execution squads or unleash a retaliatory biological pathogen to wipe out their families, fully expecting the same merciless extinction they had tried to inflict on Earth. But humanity proved once again that our vengeance is a calculated, terrifying masterpiece of absolute justice. We didn't fire a single bullet into their civilian populations, and we didn't burn their cities to ash. Instead, our fleet engineers deployed a massive network of heavy orbital satellites that linked together across their entire upper atmosphere, projecting an impenetrable, permanent energy quarantine grid that completely locked their entire civilization inside their own world. We stripped their society of every single hyperdrive engine, every long-range communication relay, and every scrap of military technology, leaving them with just enough basic infrastructure to survive but ensuring they could never leave their planet or contact the outer rim for the next 10 generations. The entire Galactic Assembly watched in stunned, breathless silence as our black iron dreadnoughts took up permanent positions around their sealed world like silent, immortal sentinels, serving as a physical, unshakable warning to every other aggressive empire in the cosmos. I walked back onto the command deck of our flagship, looking down at the beautiful, isolated green planet below us, and finally felt the heavy weight of the last 5 years leave my chest as I held my dog's old collar tight in my hand. We proved to the universe that humans are a species that will gladly cross 1,000 star systems to offer trade, friendship, and unconditional peace to anyone who asks. But if you dare to mistake our kindness for weakness and try to break our spirit by targeting those we love, we will systematically dismantle your military, rewrite your destiny, and lock your entire civilization in the dark until the stars themselves go cold.